messing around a lot with Claude Cowork, and I built a plugin that will help you install Claude Cowork if you're running a business. So it really is about the installation of Claude Cowork and how you manage your folder. That's so important. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to get this plugin. We're going to be playing around. That's Claude Code. We're going to be playing around with Claude Cowork today. Let me pull it up. So we're going to be working inside of Claude Cowork, and I'll take you on a little tour inside of here. But the thing I'll point out right now is that when you work in Claude Cowork, you're going to root down into a folder. And when you root down into that folder, you're going to be able to manipulate the files in there yourself, but also the AI is going to be able to manipulate those files. So what you're going to do is create a folder somewhere on your hard drive or in a Google Drive or something like that. And this is going to be the only folder that the AI can, mess with. It can't fool around in other folders, which is good and different from things like OpenClaw, which OpenClaw can root down into the very bowels of your computer, and a lot of people are not super excited to do that, and for good reason. So the nice thing about Cowork is you build a folder. Let's call this folder the click. So I'm going to rename this folder the click, and I'm going to give this AI access to just this folder so that it can start to do cool stuff for me to help me grow my business. So I'm going to start a new task, and I'm going to root down into that folder. So I'm going to choose that folder. It's on my desktop. So I'll select that folder. It's completely empty, as you can see there. And I'm going to say allow. So I'm going to let Claude go ahead and access that folder. So I'll open that folder up. It's completely empty right now. It's sort of like a magic trick because Claude's going to start building stuff in there. I'm going to start building stuff in there. It's going to be fun. Say hello to me if you're on with me live. I think I'm able to look at the chat and all of that stuff. But I'm just going to sit here and fool around with Claude Cowork because I'm bored. And it's Saturday night. And what else are we going to do? So I'm going to root down into this folder here. And then I'm going to run something called a plugin. And this is the plugin that I built. So the way you manage plugins is you go into this little customize area here, and you can see that I have a plugin in here called Growth OS Quick Start. And the Quick Start is going to, and this is the second version of this. I actually did some things to improve it over the last week, and I thought I'd shoot this video here and show you guys this new plugin. So when you install this and you tell the AI run the Quick Start, it's going to start setting up a folder in a way that I think is good for running a company, running a business. So it sets up what I call the core folder. And that core folder contains very important information about marketing a business. So things like just straight up info about the business, like what is this business? The brand voice documents, the offer file. So this file is super important. We want the AI always to know what we're selling. And then we've got the persona file, which is going to tell the AI who we're selling to. So it's super important. We've got this core folder that this Quick Start plugin will build, and it's going to build out your offer and your persona and your brand voice all in this Quick Start. Then it builds out another folder called workflows. You can see I've got a lot going on in here. I've even got my website in here, but it won't build your website, this plugin, but it does build the second folder called workflows. And workflows is where we keep, the skills and instructions and files and everything for stuff that we're creating. I have a lot of workflows and content creation, for example, that I cover a lot of that stuff with my students in the Click. So it builds core and it builds workflows into the folder. So how do you get this plugin? If you want to play along with me at home or watch this video later and install this, what you do is you go to my website here. You go to theclick.ai. So on this site, I built this section called Quick Start. If you click on View All Plugins there, and the plugin you're going to want to use depends on what industry you're in. So if you've got a nonprofit or a healthcare company, e-commerce, SaaS, construction, coaching, consulting, you could own an agency, real estate. And this is a different plugin here that we use inside my membership. But if you don't see your industry here or something that makes sense for you, just use this plugin here. This is the general business plugin, and that's the one I'm going to use right now. If you don't see your industry, use this plugin. When you click on this, it's going to take you in here. When you sign up here, you can get on my email list, and I'll start sending you pretty cool content and other notifications about free trainings I'm doing, and I'll try to sell you stuff too. I'm a marketer and I run my own company. So I'm going to put a email address in here. And when I click this, it'll download the plugin. So you see it already just auto downloaded that plugin from GitHub. So it's all there for you. So you're just going to open it up. There's your plugin there. It'll go back into Cowork and go into Customize. And I'm going to go ahead and install this plugin. Even though I already have it installed, it'll just tell me that I'm going to overwrite it. So I'm going to upload a plugin. And this is what you would do in your own Claude Cowork. And just drop that zip file in there. That's your Claude Cowork Quick Start zip. Upload that. And it's asking me if I want to replace it. And I'll say yes. And I don't know why I've been getting this silly error here, but it says plugins installed. Cool. So I'm going to go back into that new task and I'm going to root back down into that folder. I'm going to make sure I'm rooted into that folder. I'm going to select the Click. That's the folder. And I'm going to say run the Quick Start. And all this is doing is invoking a skill inside that plugin. That plugin contains a skill. See, it says running a skill. And that skill is going to run you through this plugin. It's going to run you through the Quick Start and set up your folder. Whatever folder you're rooted into, it's going to start building out your business inside of there. And it's pretty powerful. When you get to the end of the Quick Start, and anytime you root down into that folder to do work, it's going to know what you sell. It's going to know who you sell to. It's going to know your brand voice. It's going to know your workflows and start to build that stuff out. So what you want to do is start working. When you work in Claude Cowork, you want to root down that same folder all the time and start building it out. So you can see it's starting to run the Quick Start. And the first step is it wants to know a little bit about the business. And I'm going to say I have an existing business. Cool. So while we go through the Quick Start, there'll be a lot of times when the AI is sitting there just thinking, right? So I'll take you on a quick tour around Cowork and show you around. But it says, quick question before we dive in. Are you more of a done is better than perfect person? Definitely. Do you want to know how the system works as we build it? Not really, just do the work. You can select whatever you want there. I built the plugin to be a little bit more verbose if you select that you want to see how it works, which is totally cool. Like if you want to know more, it'll be more verbose. If you select that other method, show me how it works. Now, while it's thinking, I'm going to go through a couple things over here. So up here, you have your new task area. You can search threads, of course, but this is cool. They added this a couple of weeks ago. And you're able to schedule tasks now, and you will schedule a morning routine as part of this quick start, you'll build a morning routine. You can just do something simple at start, but my morning routine now has got a lot of different activity that the AI goes out and does for me. And you can just keep stacking tasks that you want the AI to take care of every morning, and you can put it on a schedule up there, and you'll do that in this quick start. So what's the business URL? So this is my site here, theclick.ai. So grab that, go back into Claude and give it the website. Now what it's going to do here is it's going to go crawl your site. It's going to look at your site. It's going to look for information about what you sell. It's going to look for information about who you might be selling to and start to gather information. And that's what it's going to start to build into your folder, so it knows about the business. Now, if you're just starting a company, you can give it somebody else's website, something that you're like, I want to build a company like this, So let's say you're trying to build an e-commerce clothing company or something. Go and give it an e-commerce clothing company. You can tell Claude, hey, this is not my site, but this is a site that I want to build, is like just like this, and I'm just getting this company started. So which of these platforms? We do a lot of LinkedIn, we do YouTube, not too much on X or Facebook. Something else that we do, so we do a lot of webinars at the Click, a lot of webinars. We do a lot of live training and stuff. Some of it's free, some of it's part of my paid membership. So I'm just going to give it that for now, and I'm going to go ahead and run. So working our way down the left side here, you can see that this thing runs every day for me. It's called the content miner. It goes out there and it looks at my Slack, because I have a lot of conversations with people in business and in my membership in Slack. And it goes and it finds good ideas for me to create content about. So if I have some thing that I type up in Slack to a member or just to one of my clients or something, it's going to get captured, by the content miner. We'll go fetch it out of my Slack and present it to me and say, hey, do you want to create some content about this? And then, I can, put that on my to-do list to produce something around that. But this thing, I love it. It goes into my Slack, it goes into my Notion and looks at all the transcriptions of trainings and webinars I do. It's, something cool that you can set up is, it's kind of these agents that work in here can do a lot of different things. So do you have any files you want me to absorb? So here's where I would spend a little bit of time. If you have sales pages, brochures, doesn't matter what it is, like anything, you could take a photo of something with your phone and upload it. If you've got some kind of any kind of documentation about the business, you can see it says pitch decks, course outlines, email sequences, anything that you can dump in here is sort of like educating your AI, and it will start to build it out into your folder and start to understand your business a lot more. It's really pretty amazing. So if you've got a book, you can drop that in as a PDF or something, or even just tell it you have a book, like I have a book and it's about this or something like that. So spend a little bit of time here. It's not like anything you do during this quick start is final either. Like you could do this later. You could go dump a bunch of stuff in there and say, build this context out. The cool thing that the quick start does is it gives you a structure right from the beginning and sort of kickstarts your work in Claude Cowork. So nothing about what you're doing here is final. You can change everything. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's everything. But like I said, if you're doing this for yourself, put as much as you can in there. I mean, don't spend hours on it, but like grab some stuff and drop it in there and the AI will learn more. You can see it's going to move past step 1 here and start to try to figure out what I sell. All right. So it's been on my site and it's pulled and scraped information off of that website. So it should do a pretty good job of figuring out what I sell, because my site contains a lot of information about what I sell. So down here, of course, you got you've got the threads, and these get stacked up here just like in ChatGPT or anything else. And then up here, I should have started here probably. You can still access, this is the Claude desktop app. So you have to use Cowork, you have to use this desktop app. So you got to go download it. They have it for Mac, they have it for PC. And you go either chat or code. I use Claude Code, but I use it in Cursor here. And I use Cowork here in the desktop, and very rarely do I use the chat anymore because the Claude Cowork is just so much more powerful. But I do find that moving into chat over in the browser it's a good idea for a lot of things. When I just want to have a back and forth conversation, I don't want this thing to go building files and like logging into stuff. Like I don't need any of that. I just go back over to Claude Chat. So does this capture what you sell? So let's look and see what it found about what I sell. So it did find my membership. The thing it missed, so I have a whole teams section in here where I do training, workshops, team training. I build custom Claude plugins and stuff for companies. But I'm not going to spend time giving all those URLs, but I probably would. If I wanted to set this up for real, I would give it as much links to any offers that I have, because when this AI understands what I sell, it's far more powerful. So I want to say click.ai teams. This is our offer for companies, while the membership is for individuals. So I'll put that in, and that it'll build that context out that I have these two offers. I have the membership side, and I have the more service-based side where I work with larger companies. So working our way on the right. So all this stuff over here is pretty, looks like ChatGPT kind of vibes. Over here, it starts to look a little different. So you've got the progress area. So this AI goes out there and makes plans. It makes, and it goes out there, and when you tell it to do something, it's usually going to make a multi-step plan to knock that out. You can see that the quick start has a 7-step plan here, and it will run through all of these steps like it is an agentic AI. This is what's different about it versus a chat bot versus Claude Chat versus ChatGPT Chat. It's agentic, so it can go and create plans, and it can edit those plans. It can create plans on the fly based on what you asked it to do, or it can follow a set of instructions and build that out. That's what it's doing here. It's following a very rigid onboarding process into Claude Cowork. Does this sound like your ideal customer? So it's going to go out there and try to write up a customer persona, and this is pretty close. I might change some things or add some things, but I want to get that persona done. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's pretty close. Again, I can change this later, but why not take a minute here and get it set up well? Which of these pain points hits hardest? So when we market things, we want to market to pain, right? We've got to be solving people's problems. That's what we sell, is a solution. And so getting very clear on what the pain points are for your ideal customer can be really powerful, because when your AI knows, all of these are pretty good actually. And I might add a few things in here, but it's going to come up with a lot of different pain points, because that's how I built this plugin. Is I wanted this plugin to really dive deep on pain points and like what are the problems that are related to what you sell. Do these quotes sound like your customer? So it does these things called, this plugin makes a persona that the persona talks about the pain and the pleasures, right? So what does it feel like before you have the product or service that we're selling, and what does it feel like after? And I do, I don't know, 30, 40 pairs like that. Do these quotes sound like your customer? Pretty good, yeah. So I'm just going to say sounds right, and let it move into and create that persona. So let's see if it's been writing anything yet into my folder. We'll go back to this guy here. So you can see it's been starting to build out the structure of what I call Growth OS. So Growth OS is it's the system that we use at the Click to grow businesses using Claude Cowork and Claude Code. And it's super, it creates a structure around how your AI works. And you can see it's already starting to build out that structure there. So it's got core, and it's starting to build out the files that it's going to need to do its job. Mainly right now, it's built the persona and the offer files. Okay, so do you have a piece of writing? So here you could feed it in something that you wrote or somebody else wrote that you like that voice, right? And you want the AI to write in that voice. So you can put, you could give it links to stuff, or you could drop in PDF files. Screenshots will even work. Screenshot a email newsletter you wrote or somebody else wrote that you like, and drop that in here. But it's also, remember, been on your website. So if you've got copy over there, that's fine. You just say use what you've got. So I'm just going to let it use what I've got. And now it's going to write that voice file. So let's go look at this persona file. So this looks kind of weird if you've never worked in Markdown. One of the things that we teach about over at the Click is we talk about Markdown. So on the left here, I use this little program called One Markdown. And on the left, you can see the Markdown version of the persona document. And on the right, you can see a little bit better formatted. So this is more rich text formatting. And so I'll show you that side. So you're looking at this, it's talking about, remember I said it's going to build out these pain and pleasure quotes. This is how you build an AI that can really write some killer email copy, ads, anything, landing pages, whatever, emails. Like, it's going to use this right here. So this could be a place where you would want to make some edits if you want. And if you would do that just by, you could use a tool like One Markdown. I'm on a Mac right now, so you'd need something that edits Markdown for a PC. But you can also just open it in a text file. Like, you can open a text edit file, the standard text edit text reader. This is a pretty common thing that we work when we're working with AI. We work in a lot of Markdown files, and it's just a basic, very basic way of adding formatting to plain text. Like, that's a heading too. You can see Meet Morgan is enriched text. This looks bigger and bolder, and you know that the Meet Morgan, that this lives in, these bullets live inside of here, and all of that formatting gets distributed to the AI in such an easier way when it's written like this. Like, the thing that's most wonky about Markdown to look at is tables. Like, that's a table. That's that pain point table right there. And when you communicate with an AI, when you're using long prompts and things like that, the performance of how much better that AI will do if you use Markdown is pretty crazy. It'll do a much better job. But anyway, you look at your persona there. Okay, so in 3 to 5 words, how would you describe your writing style? It's going to try to guess on this, and then it's going to write a brand voice document. Again, if you don't like the way the voice writes for you, when you're writing, you just want to start to tell it, that's too hypey. you're too cynical. Like, just tell it that stuff and it'll go right into the brand voice document, these preferences that you have, and it will get better and better and better at writing in the voice that you like. So I'm going to go with warm and conversational. What tone do you want to avoid? Definitely corporate speak. Yeah. So now it's going to write the brand voice document. I'll pop down to this little box right here. So when this AI is working, it's using what we call context documents. It's using context. So you can see that what it has available right now in its context is these different files. So it's looked at the offer document. So if I click on it, I can open it in that split pane right there. And then I can open it in text edit, or I can open it in that one Markdown program I was showing you. You can copy it. What you cannot do yet, and it's annoying, is you can't edit over here. You can't edit this, and they really need to get that feature in here. ChatGPT's had the ability to edit their documents from within ChatGPT for a long time. I don't know what Anthropic's waiting on with that, because it seems like something that most people would probably want. Because if I can edit this here, it's a lot easier, and I can save it and it would push back over here. That would be fantastic, but we don't have that capability yet. We got to go into another external program. You edit the file and you just save it back in to your folder. So it's going to write a couple of samples. This plugin is going to write a couple of samples, and you can kind of start to work with your voice right there, going back and forth. And I do, encourage you to do that. Have it write you something longer. If you close this box and you start to say, hey, well, let's spend a minute on this brand voice, you can pick right back up with the quick start. Just tell it to finish the quick start or whatever. So if you want to X this out and just start to talk to it, go ahead. Just tell it what you want, and it will start to edit these files to mold your workspace the way you want it. So does this voice sound like you? Yeah, it sounds like me. Okay, cool. So going back to this, so yeah, it's building files and it's referencing files, and when it does that, it's going to line them up over here and show you what what's in there, because often we want to click to open and see what's in there. So there's that persona file, that Markdown file for the persona is here, and I can click on it and look and see what it wrote. What does a productive morning look like for you? So this is where I said you'll set up a scheduled task. So when you set up a scheduled task, start with something simple like weather, right? Just start with that, and then you can add to this scheduled task, like things that you want it to do. But let's just start with something simple like the weather, and we'll say I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, and so now it's going to start to build the schedule routine. It should ask me, like, do you want to schedule this? And then it'll end up in there. I'm probably going to choose not to do it, because when I do this demonstration, I end up with these scheduled things that go off. So, but you'll see it. It'll just say, hey, do you want to schedule this? So you want me to schedule this? I'm going to say no, but you could say yes. I'm going to say no. And then but you can see over here, this is that folder we started with that was completely empty. And this AI is starting to build out the files you need. See, it just created that routine folder there. So it created a routines folder. And that's how I structured this AI to set up your Cowork. This plugin is set up to create these folders. So now it's writing what's called the CLAUDE.md file. So the CLAUDE.md file is basically like a set of instructions. It's like a set of instructions for the AI. It always reads that CLAUDE.md file. So most people end up putting like something only things in there that are critical to the functioning of the entire folder. The thing about the Claude file is you don't edit it yourself. You just let the AI, it's Claude's file. Like, you can go look at it. You can see it's starting to try to build out a map of what's all in here. I mean, this was all stuff that was built since we started using the plugin. You can see it's starting to build something that'll allow you to manage and grow a business. That's why I built this plugin, was because if you start and you just start working in there, it can get super messy, super fast, and then it becomes useless. So this plugin gets you started out on the right path. The last thing I had this plugin do is tell you a bunch of growth ideas. So I also built into the plugin some information about how I've been teaching marketing for 20 years. I mean, how we teach digital marketing through a customer journey framework. And I fed it that framework. And so what it does is it comes up with, I think we'll see how many it comes up with today, but 15 or 20 ideas about how to grow awareness, leads, sales, and retention at the business. So I've been teaching this. Nothing has changed about how we go about growing businesses using digital marketing. I mean, we're still driving awareness, leads, sales, and retention. Nothing has changed about that. Nothing will change about that. We're going to always be trying to do this with businesses for as long as businesses exist anyway. And so that's how I had it carve up and think about. So what it does here at the end, I mean, it goes through everything that you've produced, like your persona. So it gets an idea of who you're selling to, what you're selling, what your brand voice is, what your business info is. It gathers as much information as it can. And then it goes, all right, here's some ideas. And you'll be shocked. Like, it'll come up with some really good ideas. And this is just all Claude's intelligence, but this plugin just sort of runs through and it says, okay, now Claude, do this, right? And I want you to think about the ideas that you have in these 4 buckets. How do I grow awareness for this company? How do I grow leads? How do I grow sales? How do I grow retention? So it looks at all of those. And, then it says, which of these ideas do you like? Now, one of the annoying things about Claude is it gave me a summary here, but what it did is it wrote a document. And a lot of times you don't realize that when you're using Claude Cowork, that it's creating documents. Like, this growthideas.md is now a new file, and it summarized that, but it didn't give me a link. It didn't tell me that. I don't think anywhere in here it told me that there's a broader document here that's going to contain a lot more information. And that document lives in your folder. It wrote this. If I open this up and look at it over on this side, you can see there's a lot more here. There's a big bunch of growth recommendations that Claude came up with based on the information it already gathered about you. And I'm telling you, run this quick start plugin and tell me that you don't get some good ideas out of here. There's a lot of ideas in here. And the cool thing is, if you like one of the ideas, like, let's say, let's go into the lead generation area. So let's just say this 5-minute AI marketing audit. So if I copy that, that idea is in Claude's brain. It's able to access that growth idea. So I'm going to say, let's get busy on this one. So I'm just giving it this idea that it gave me and say, hey, yeah, let's get busy on that. A 5-minute AI marketing audit, lead magnet, build an interactive quiz. So pretty much at this point, you're at the end of the quick start and you're starting to move into a zone of, all right, let's get some work done. Let's build something that makes us more money, gets us more leads, whatever. So it's going to ask how you want to track your ideas. if you want to here, the reason I built this question in here is because if you use like an external outside of Claude, I mean, like task management app like Notion or ClickUp or something like that, you could say I already use a tool for this, and it'll try to get you connected to that, because that's another thing about Claude. I'm going to close this and just sort of move forward. But the other thing about Claude is it's got all these connectors in here, and you can see that the Notion connector is really easy. You just go turn it on, and I think you have to authenticate with Notion or whatever, but that's it. But it'll connect to. You can figure out ways to get Claude connected to just about anything at this point, and that becomes more and more true every day. So if I go back into that growth idea, it's starting to move me forward on this, and I'm just kind of off to the races now. I'm moving, and that's why I built that quick start plugin. If you want it, you can always go to theclick.ai and just click at the quick start up there and click on view all plugins. And then you can look for the one in your industry here. But if you can't find anything that totally fits your industry here or vertical, you can just use this general business plugin. That's the one I just went through. And you click here and it'll download it. And so, if you go back to the beginning of this video, I showed you how to install a plugin. And then just start running through the quick start and tell this AI what you want, how you want it to work, how you want this to work, how you want that to work. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.